Okay, here we are in another Stormgate cast. I'm Algorithmore, and this is going to be another game featuring my buddy Dutchy here in the Blue Infernal. And for once, he's playing on his main account, so I won't have to explain to you in this game that that's actually Dutchy. It says Dutchy there this time. And his opponent this time is going to be kdkrgs in the red Vanguard. And they are spawning here on Ruination. We already see a scout going across the map, as well as the hexen going around the outside. Wonder if that was intentional pathing, or maybe, Dutchy clicked at a different point, which made her go that way. One reason I say it might be intentional is if you can avoid the dog might harass you. Now, this does not look good. That is not how you want to lose your dog right away. So that's looking to me to be a mistake by KDK off the bat by putting his dog into that vulnerable position. And now we're going to watch Dutchy be a little bit annoying with his Hexen here and try and block these bobs from creating their command post. Well, they decide to just build it a little bit off center here. And so he is going to kind of harass them a bit. And they, of course, do their quick build, so they're not going to be bothered by that. And these bobs had been overcharged, so they were taking less damage. I think my music's a little bit loud here, so let me just change that. And looks like Dutchy is going to teleport back out after doing a little bit of harass. He has back home got his own shrine down as well, and it looks like it's Brutes coming out, and he's going to begin his creeping of his health camp. So while it did kind of annoy KDK, I don't think it really has upset him too much. His command post is a little bit off center, which means his bobs that are mining at the far patch there are going to have to walk a little bit further to get that mining. That's probably going to just slow down the mining from that base a little bit, but of course a little bit slower is not that bad compared to maybe not having the base, or having the base up is definitely going to give you an income that's going to be of value even if you're off center a little bit. That's what I'm trying to get at there. He does have his barracks down now, KDK, and we see Dutchy building a wall off at his ramp here. He's got the vault that's been producing these brutes, and now he's got a conclave up, having taken his health camp, and now it looks like heading off to the speed camp to capture that. So he's gonna just try and pull those Shadow Mastiffs with his Fiends a little bit. He doesn't really want to engage them with the Fiends because the Fiends themselves they have their low hit point levels, and even against, creeps, pretty much against anything, they're gonna die quickly. So you don't really want them tanking. You want those big brutes doing the tanking, especially if they're upgraded brutes. I don't think these ones are quite yet, but remember, when they're upgraded, they will get that armor. I'm checking to see if there are upgrades on the way. We do see a ritual chamber here, and it looks like, yeah, that greater shrine is halfway done. Remember, after the last couple patches, this has been sped up, or made, the time it takes to upgrade to the higher tiers has been decreased. I think it's 30 seconds now. It might have been 40 before that. Now, a couple fiends here trying to be annoying, or just getting some scouting knowledge. They're coming into the base, trying to get on some bobs, but remember, bobs are pretty much impossible to kill, especially if there are lancers nearby. And there's one fiend goes down, splatted. The other two try and get out of there. But this fiend says, oh, wait a second, there's already a third base up here for KDK. So KDK has been fairly greedy, going for bases instead of units. He does have 4 lancers out of 2 racks, it looks like here. And now there are some gaunts for Dutchy coming across. I guess they're here to support this, but I wonder if this is going to be an aggressive play. Now, he did see that his opponent has been fairly greedy, and that one command post here doesn't really have a lot of defenses up yet. And I wonder if there is a force that's nearby that's going to be able to stop this. So the fiends are already going to be on top of the bobs. We see an effigy going down. The bobs turn to fight, but there is no overcharge on them yet. And it does look like Plague Axes is already finished. And so we're starting to see infested bobs going down, meaning more fiends are spawning. A lot of fiends have already spawned, and this could be a very quick game. Although here comes some Lancers, and Lancers are the exact answer you want for those fiends. We've seen that already. More Brutes and more Gaunts also arriving as reinforcements. This command post looks like it's going to go down. These fiends have a high DPS. That's what the trade-off is for their low hit points. They're going to go down easily to these Lancers. We see a few of them already melting, but they can take down that base fairly quickly. Now the Brutes and the Fiends here trying to get some DPS, and we see a very nice Nightfall Infestation giving that slow on the Lancers, allowing them to catch up, get a little soft surround on them, and just get more DPS on them. But the Exos actually showing up, and their bonus damage against Brutes, well, that's pretty much it. Their bonus damage against Heavy means they are strong against the Brutes. And I think what we see here is Dutchy just trying to pick off one or two of those Lancers that he did get down to fairly low health. Now, one way or another, I do think Dutchy should count that as a success. He did get a kill on the command post, even though engaging those units, he only, I think, killed a single Lancer. That's because Lancers are just really tanky. And so it's hard even with the Infernal units, which are... The Brutes can be pretty tanky too, but Infernal units are more intended to melt, and, you know, Brutes split into Fiends. That's sort of an advantage of them dying. You also get Animus when they die, so there's reasons to want your units to die as an Infernal, and the idea behind the Infernal design is that you should just be able to make more units to replace them. A Nightfall Infestation going down to try and capture those Bobs with Infest, again hoping to spawn more Fiends, but not getting all of them. And now we actually see the army showing up with a single Mag actually added to this composition, doing a great job of being able to clear out those Lancers. That's one thing. The tier 1 for Infernal cannot really deal with the Lancers, but adding a single Mag, and you can. Now these Exos are actually also good against Mags. They do that bonus damage, and they're trying to chase down the Mag. They're running right through the Gaunts, and that's not usually a great way to go. And the Mag does get back and chomps down on a Fiend. Now remember, what that does is it refreshes all of the Mag's white health, or its Shroud skin, as I like to call it. Now the Mag's getting out and managing to clear out more Lancers, walking back to the Shroud, trying to get that regen from the Shroud. But now we're starting to see a lot of those Gaunts go down, and it's just Exos here. The Exos can micro for days with reinforcements arriving behind, and some Fiends splitting off, a really nice Fiend split, but Lancers showing up right at the right moment to try and protect those Exos. But again, great micro from Dutchy to move his units through the Lancers on top of the Exos, clearing out the Exos and deciding now it's time to leave. These Lancers are good against all of these units here. We do not see Kinetic Redirect up for KDK, and I think that might be a little bit of a mistake for KDK here. You want to get that as soon as you can. It does add some important bonuses to your Lancers, including a little bit of speed when you get hit, which meant while they're chasing those units, if the units try and kite them at all, they will be able to speed up and get on top of them even faster. Nonetheless, we do see KDK building a small little ball here to replace the one he's lost, although it looks like Dutchy's already found his other third base, and this is starting to turn into the tail of the game where he is denying these bases. And I think KDK is trying to get back in time, but he's just not going to make it. He does catch some reinforcements in, you know, a little out of position. This Gaunt, well, luckily, I think that's some Reaper's Rush, because the only way you're going to be able to run away from those units is with full upgrades. Now, all these Gaunts are going to run into the Lancers. The Lancers managed to cut down a few of them with their splash damage, and we see a Brute going down as well. And the Gaunts actually changing direction. Maybe deciding they want to engage. As we see, they're going to be joined by a Magmadon and 2 Weavers here. Now these Exos and Lancers are right up here now. Are the Exos upgraded? No. So, oh, we have Quick Draw, sorry. My bad. We do have Quick Draw Hustle, but we still do not have Kinetic Redirect. Nonetheless, it looks like Dutchy was trying to creep here, and he was come upon by this Exo and Lancer force. And there's some good control here, trying to force the units to engage with the Exos while the Lancers were being moved back and forth so that they can preserve their health. A few of them are pretty low, but that attack definitely went KDK's way as he cleared out the vision tower here. And we see Dutchy retreating back. Now Dutchy, it looks like, also up on his third. He's been denying thirds all game, but he's up on his third here. He's added a Hellforge, and here we see the Soulforge Ascendants. That's the first Brute upgrade. That's going to give them some armor and also cause them to split into 3 Fiends. Now here's a little engage over the Vision Tower. Now remember, that Vision Tower has been granting KDK. He knew that those Gaunts were coming up. That's why he was able to get into a good position there. Now he's going to chase down Dutchy, who wisely retreats back to some Shroud. And he's got a bunch of meat farms here. Meat farms are pretty good. Pretty good static D. Also pretty good if you want to push with them. Something that has recently been discovered by Celestial players. Or sorry, against Celestial players. Now he's still retreating back, but we see KDK clearing out this speed camp. KDK is being a little bit more aggressive with his units on the map. He's able to capture some map control. And I think partly because Dutchy's army is a little slower. He's got Magmadons that need tier 3 to get speed. And he's got Weavers, which are just slow-moving units. Once you push out, you're kind of committed with these slower-moving units. Of course, the one thing about the Weavers is they can teleport back home. That's to compensate for that slower moving part of their kit. Now we see Dutchy here moving out. He captured the vision camp, and now he's going to capture some more camps while his fast moving fiends here are once again trying to deny this base. I think that's the 3rd time it's going to be denied. While his other units are coming up here now, unfortunately they were on a move, but were in a bad position, and a lot of Gaunts get taken out. And again, he pushes into this choke. I don't think that is very wise, and we do see one Magmadon going down for free as a result. Now the Weavers are coming up to tank. They're a little bit better against the Exos. They are able to pull some of them in, but then actually the Exos there, I think, choosing wisely to retreat. They probably shouldn't have stayed quite as long as they did. While the rest of this force here went to try and clean up the Fiends over here, which they did, but not until that base was denied for a 3rd time. Again, testament to the DPS of the Fiends. Now this force, as I mentioned, is slower and it's caught out on the map. And we are going to see the Mag trying to get a connection, but unfortunately not getting very much DPS from that trample before he was taken out. And now this Bioforce, along with a Vulcan in the back there, you see Medtechs as well added. This is once again going to flex its muscles and get map control. We see what here? Some Fiends out again, yet again, trying to deny bases. And this is one thing that Dutchy has had going for him this game. Although he hasn't been taking much of the battles, he has been denying bases. And here we see another battle going down. These Megs are actually getting a pretty good connection, although also being melted quickly. And now it's Fiends, some of them on Shroud, and a lot of Harbingers above. Unfortunately, they did not have anything inside them. So they were mostly there to provide the Shroud. I didn't see if they had this Stomp upgrade, the Seismic Slam, yet. Some more pretty good engages with the Magmadons, but the Control by KDK has also been good to micro his exos back and focus fire them down. We do see the Magmadons do have their, their, what is it called? Raging Tendons speed upgrade. Now we've got some Flame Imps out. Huge connects with the Flame Imps. We see half of that Exo Force going down to the Flame On Imps. And we still have a little bit of a Gaunt Force here microing back. The one Vulcan is still alive and it's still doing a lot of DPS to these units. We do see him jump giant bed to the back to keep him safe. He is a valuable unit. Of course, he can be repaired if he gets back to base or some bobs get pulled to the front. What do we have here? Oh, the Harbingers are still hanging out. Looks like they were sent there. And this defense went fairly well in the sense that mostly what it looked like last year, maybe some of the imps mining Therium here. We also saw that the farm went down. There's at least one farm that went down and maybe some shroud stones as well, but that's what static B is for. It's to defend, so you're not taking loss to your production or your mining. Now, Dutchy is on these 4 bases, and KDK is once again trying to get a 4th base up. Looks like this base is, wow, very interesting at 100 hit points. Now, of course, repair is free, so having a repair here, or a couple bobs set on repair, or maybe after this sentry post is done. Is there even a bob building? It looks like there is in the back there. Once the sentry post is done, you can turn that into a repair turret, although it looks like we have a drop going down here. And sure enough, what do we have? Flame on imps. Wow! And huge impacts, taking out a lot of bobs there. Now it looks like there are still 8 bobs mining here, so maybe only 4 went down, although I do think all the Therium miners went down as well. This Bioforce still out on the map trying to capture, it looks like energy camps now. That's going to help the medtechs, of course. And we also see a Therium mining base going down here, and I actually kind of like this expansion pattern. It grants access to more Therium here. Although we do see that Dutchy is on 4 bases, so this might be the logical next base to take over, say, maybe this base. Or this one up here. This is sort of a ninja base. This is also a reach, which allows you to maybe extend your static D over this choke. You could also put some over this choke. And then this base becomes one that's a little bit easier to grab as well. And you can expand towards your opponent. So we'll see if we get to that stage of the game. At the moment, we are kind of squarely here in the mid to late game. We are seeing Atlases being added to Vulcans now. And we also see Hellborn being added here for Dutchy. And still those Harbingers flying above. And let's see, we're finally getting Sundering Soul Craze. That's the final Brute upgrade. And that means we do have, yes, Molten Touch on these Hellborns. Let's see if they rain down that fire. They do indeed, although not getting the greatest splash. Their auto-targeting didn't pick the best unit to focus on. It's one reason why microing your Hellborns can be helpful. There's some really nice hits. And there are some Flame On imps, or rather they're not Flame On yet. There are some imps in this composition. And there's some Harbingers above. I think right now they're just drawing fire and threatening. There's nothing inside of them. And a bunch more Hellborns added, as well as a Magmadon. And the Atlas is sieged up on the high ground, giving it looks like range over the whole ramp. Now, unfortunately, that puts it too far back to engage in this battle. You see 1 or 2 shots going down. This Mag getting focus fired after getting a pretty good trample. And it looks like Dutchy will pull back a little bit with his own Hellborns moving forward. And those Hellborns, like the tank up on the high ground, are able to hit from such a high range that they are being very devastating to a few of these units that get caught a little bit ahead of the Atlas's range. And now one Magmadon very heroically moves forward, puts his trample on, but it seems like bugged out there for a second and was not auto-attacking or Maybe he was trampling. I didn't really see the animation. Now the Imps are on a move. They are not flamed on. And maybe that's just to help tank a little bit, or maybe they will be flamed on now that they're right on top of these units. You think they might. Though it is a micro, it does take micro to do that. And at the moment, it's mostly the Hellborns that are the threat here, as a lot of the front for Dutchy has been melted. And then he wisely decides to not pursue much further and allow for more units to arrive. A couple more Atlases added here. The Vulcans have been preserved, and the Medtechs here are doing their best to heal up the bio. A couple Fiends here are going to steal the speed camp, but it's the Hellborns here marching forward. And that's a little risky, but we'll see. I think the idea here is maybe to get them into a position where they can attack this base and have the rest of the units in a position to defend them. Pretty nice shot there on some of these dogs. And the Bobs are trying to move by. But again, very good control from Dutchy to move his army back to defend the Hellborns instead of trying to chase down those Bobs. They look like juicy targets. He needed those units to tank against some of these units, and as we see here, because of that tanking ability, these Hellborns have been able to do a really good job here. There's still those two Vulcans, and Vulcans are just so hard to kill. And some Bobs show up to try and heal them up, but the Magmadon gets on top of them all. And it looks like the Vulcans were cleaned up. The Meg's in retreat because the Meg's very low and it gets taken out. And now the Hellborn, unfortunately, are slow and they have nothing to help them here. The Bobs are going to try and block them. And here comes a couple Megs. This is kind of what you want to see here. Some nice tanking Megs. And the Hellborn's turn to fight. Now, ooh, pardon me, sorry about that. And the Hellborn here trying to get out of the way. The Megs are unfortunately being melted by the Hedgehogs. Hedgehogs do a pretty good job against them. And again, Hedgehogs here are a nice, more maneuverable unit, which with their speed are going to be able to chase down these Hellborn. And unfortunately, these Hellborn, they did a pretty good job getting out here and melting some of the rest of the units, but they just can't get home, and that makes it an expensive push forward. So Dutchy did a pretty good job with that push. But again, losing those Hellborns. So these two players playing a real scrappy battle here on Ruination here. We're up to minute 22. Starting to get into that late game as we're seeing a command post and another one being added here. Those look like those were solo built, so that means they took a while all that battle was going on. We now see a dragon above. Unfortunately, that's probably a misrally here. You don't like to see an Atlas go down like that, and a few med techs as well. Or perhaps that was intended to be a little bit of a strike force. With the victory over those Hellborn, there's good reason to think, hey, maybe I can pressure a third or something. And now really nice control on those Fiends to get a full surround there. And KDK is going to call it GG after that loss.